For those of you on, we've got a few minutes before we start, so just give us some time. We'll wait everybody else to join. Hope everybody having a good day, getting ready for a little snow.
There's a misprint. The August 25th technical meeting summary, number 3. It's not August 25th. It would have been November. Just say November. I don't know the exact.
August.
Is it August?
Yep, we're behind on one.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Dave.
Yep, it's 50 pages. So
Scratch that, Dennis.
Scratch that.
And it is a revised agenda. Just remember that. To add
That's
the third resolution.
yeah. That's a million and change, right?
1,029,000
or something like that.
39,570.
Okay.
Updates, we'll do Bridge New York. Oh, and Wood Street.
And your own bridge call, right?
Yeah, that's, of course, the call is closed. 2
Yeah,
applications.
just an update on that. Okay. For those who are waiting, we're just waiting a few more minutes. We've got at least 2 minutes before the actual start of the meeting. We'll give people additional time to join.
How small group.
No, I'm good to ready to go on. I'm just ready to go on a call. There's something in the lunchroom with a box got your name on. I'm not sure what that is. Okay. Anyway, no good. Everything's good.
So we'll give everybody one more minute, and then we'll start. We're going to do when we have to go back to regular meetings. You know what I'm saying?
No, they canceled school today, Kingston,
For snow?
I guess.
I guess, yeah. Yeah, I guess.
When I was a kid.
Yeah, there you go. Neither sleet, nor hail, nor dark of night. One of those. Okay, folks, we're going to get going. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Ulster County Transportation Council's Technical Committee meeting for still January, for January. We have a slightly revised agenda today. If you haven't noticed, we've added a resolution. It's 2021-03. Has to do with transit funding. So that will take that up. It's the third item on our revised agenda. For now, I don't think we'll skip introductions. Nobody minds, we'll skip introductions. We can see who's there. You can see who's on your screen. If anybody has questions or wants to ask, or please raise your hand. That function's available to you. There's a raise your hand function. You can also use the chat function to ask questions as well. We'll try to monitor that during the meeting. So for now, we'll request a motion for an approval of the August. We're way back in August 5th, 2020 Technical Committee meeting summary. May I have a motion for purposes?
Have a motion.
Please identify yourself for the motion so we can have it for the minutes, please.
Fred Pizzuto, Dennis.
Thanks, Fred. And do I have a second?
Ed Pine, second.
Thank you, Mr. Pine. Much appreciated. Any discussion? Hearing none, I'm not going to ask for ayes. I'm going to ask for nays. Anybody opposed? Anybody need to abstain? So carried. Communications and announcements, Brian?
I have one announcement. I was pleased to see yesterday in our email, we received notice from the New York State Department of Transportation announcing the opening of the latest round of Bridge New York funding. Thank you, Dave, for bringing that up. It's a beautiful bridge they have shown there on their webpage. Just a very quick summary. We will send, if you haven't received that notice, we'll send you that very shortly. It's up on the web right now. You can see the URL. We'll do a email blast, I think tomorrow, with that link. $16.2 million is being made available to communities throughout the Hudson Valley region. The program seems to be set up as it's been set up in years past. They're offering 95% state and federal reimbursement for bridges and 100% reimbursement for culverts. And the description of what constitutes a bridge versus a culvert is provided in the application materials. All bridges are eligible for funding within our region. And the deadline is, the final deadline is later in June, but I believe the department is requesting all applicants to submit a draft application, which is a highly recommended process because it does allow for some QA/QC of your application and will allow you to get some questions answered and to get some, hopefully some feedback on your application. And the draft, it looks like the deadline for those drafts is in April for culverts and May for bridges. So that should give sufficient time to consider your applications. And again, we'll send notice about this funding opportunity probably tomorrow through an email blast. if you don't have it.
Any other communications or announcements, Brian?
No, not at this time.
Okay. How about, where are we with our own bridge program?
Oh, sure. I was going to provide this later on in the agenda, but we, as you members might recall, in December, opened up a call for local bridges through our off-system bridge funding that we've had available on our transportation improvement program. We have just under $2 million in federal funding for off-system bridges. We made the application call open for about 4 weeks. We received 2 responses, one from the town of Rochester and one from Ulster County Department of Public Works. The responses combined are requesting more dollars than what is available. So we have funding requests exceeding what is available. So we are presently reviewing those applications based on their merits and the criteria that is laid out in the application. We will be conveying some questions and some input to the New York State Department of Transportation. We would like their input on these applications. And I think it's safe to say that we may actually request to see if there's additional funding for potential bridge applicants. If that additional funding is available, we would like to be able to provide it. But otherwise, we're just assuming we're only going to be able to fund one of the applicants. So we hope to have a decision on that in the next 2 weeks.
Anything else, Brian?
No.
Anything from the council members, communications or
Dennis, it's my date. I had trouble getting online here this morning. I just wanted to have you just check me as being here. Thank you.
Yeah, you're cutting in and out, Mike, but we can hear you. So I skipped an item on our agenda, which is a call for citizens' comments. My apologies. Are there any citizens' comments?
Hello, John Morrow here. Can you hear me?
Hi, John. Yes, we can.
Sorry, I'm having trouble getting on.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Hearing no citizens' comments, we'll move to item number 5, new business, draft UCTC resolution 2021-01, the adoption of the Ulster County Transportation Council's state fiscal year 2021 Unified Planning Work Program. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Brian. We have a brief presentation, and then I'll ask for a motion for discussion purposes. Brian?
Sure. Just bringing up a presentation now.
You go to presentation mode, right? There you go.
Great. So I have a brief presentation regarding the state fiscal year 21 Unified Planning Work Program that I'd like to share with you. Those of you who have been on the council as members, you'll probably recognize a lot of this material. No big surprises here this year. Of course, the full document is available online, and I strongly encourage you to download that and review it. There are some very minor changes in terms of the order of the document, but the general formatting is the same as in years past. Just to get right into it, the Unified Planning Work Program, what is it? It is our budget for the next state fiscal year. UPWPs run on the state fiscal year. And statewide, all 14 metropolitan planning organizations are going through their approval process right now for our Unified Planning Work Programs. And it is a full summary of all administrative, technical, and transportation planning tasks that we plan on performing for the upcoming state fiscal year. It's our operating budget and all of our tasks and plans we hope to accomplish. Just to give you a brief overview of our allocation history, this year we've received in federal planning funds on the Federal Highway Administration $388,105. And that, as you can see, is very much in line with what we've received in years past. And on the FTA side, $59,523, which again is very much in line with what we've received in recent years. So this year we have received a combined total of $447,628 in federal funds for our planning activities. Just to give you a brief overview, we keep very close track of our allocation history and expenditures year to year, going all the way back to the beginning of the council. And this is reviewed with our partners, New York State DOT, every year. We have accumulated year to year combined $735,994 in savings from previous years. So that combined with this year's allocation gives us $1,124,099 in total on federal FHWPL funding. Then on the FTA side, we have previous savings combined with this year's allocation for a total of $144,168 on the FTA side. Again, with regard to the format or organization of projects, there are no big changes since last year. We have 6 main project categories, beginning with our general program support and administration, then getting into the various planning task categories of comprehensive planning, long and short range planning, the TIP, Transportation Improvement Program, and then the other catch-all. 2 years ago, the FTA eliminated what were called program emphasis areas. So now all of our FTA projects will be shown under category number 6, under the other category going forward. This will help to organize things a little better. So looking at this year's program, we're going to be continuing projects that have been previously programmed and bringing them online, putting down some of our older projects and closing them. And this year we'll be adding 2 new projects. Every fall we do a call for projects for our member organizations to submit ideas to us. We received 2 proposals this year. One was from the town of Marbletown, which was actually a joint application between Wawarsing, Marbletown, Rochester, Hurley, and Ulster, proposing that we conduct an O&W rail trail corridor signage and wayfinding study. And that is included on the UPWP this year. We also received a proposal from the town of Rochester and Gardner for a Route 4455 corridor management plan from the intersections of Route 299 and Route 209 for the whole scenic corridor throughout the Minnewaska area. That project is included in the UPWP as well. There is more detail regarding project descriptions in the draft UPWP. I should note that one error that I did find in my draft was for the O&W Trail Corridor project. I did not update the project description. It will be updated in the final draft that the policy committee will see. So I want to provide just a little bit of insight now. It's a general corridor and signage and wayfinding proposal specific to the rail trail throughout all the towns indicated. And we have gotten quite a bit of experience doing signage and wayfinding studies in recent past. We've completed them in Kingston, Rosendale, and Wawarsing and Ellenville for the communities. Again, this proposal is specific to the rail corridor for signage and wayfinding and historic cultural interpretation. We've also received similar requests from the city of Kingston for their growing and intricate system of rail trails within the city, as well as proposals from Alta Planning and the Empire State Trail coordinators to do similar program on the Wallkill Valley and Hudson Valley Rail Trail sides of the county. So we're going to include all these projects in one general category of trail, weight signage and wayfinding. And as we begin to scope that work out, we will determine the best way forward, whether we do it incrementally by trail corridor or if we try to get them all into one contract. But we definitely see need and merit for that effort. Other changes from previous years, we as staff have proposed to include a new FTA study looking at implementing some of the recommendations from the recently completed Connect Mid-Hudson Regional Transit Plan. The major recommendation for the entire region, all 3 counties, was beginning to implement micro-mobility transit service, which is similar to a dial ride service, but it would be open to all members of the community, not just like paratransit, which is how UCAT presently operates a dial ride for eligible customers. Micromobility would expand that for all members, and we believe this may be very effective in some of our underserved areas, such as Allenville or the Woodstock area, and it might serve well to supplement existing service in places like Kingston. So it's an issue that requires further study and more detailed examination, and that's the purpose of what that study will accomplish when we begin it. We've also added some new categories. The traffic and pedestrian safety public outreach support is puts forth some resources to be made available for communities, particularly in the city of Kingston. There's some new, quite a few new transportation facilities, and I know that the city is going to be rolling out its own outreach campaign with regard to bike lanes and new facilities on Broadway, Greenkill Ave. And so this provides some resources, if needed, to supplement those efforts on traffic safety outreach needed in our region. And finally, we've added a new line item for the Ulster County Traffic Safety Board. We've supported the board in the past. We usually categorize our hours spent on the safety board under other task categories. This simply identifies a very clear task code for staff to bill their time for that board. I'm just going to give a quick overview of a status of existing projects. I think it's important to note that this year we have completed and closed successfully 7 contracts. The 6 listed here: the City of Kingston Traffic Signal Evaluation, Elm Woolworthing Wayfinding, Wallkill Valley Rail Trail Opportunity Plan, our contract with Connect Mid-Hudson and the other 2 NPOs. The UCAT storage facility we anticipate will be closed at the end of March. We had 2 contracts for the long range plan, public outreach and graphic design. We anticipate the graphic design contract to be closed. So it has been a busy year. The LRTP, I think, took up a lot of oxygen in the room. We've spent a lot of staff hours on completing that LRTP. And we've really cleared the deck in large part. We presently, or I anticipate as of April 1, we'll only have 2 projects under contract at that point. And that is the ongoing Ulster and Delaware Trail Corridor Plan that we're working up in the Big Indian area with a number of stakeholders. And then David has been working on completing the Ulster County Road Safety Action Plan, which we anticipate that to be completed in April or May of this year. So we're really clearing the decks, and now we'll be focusing on bringing some new projects up online. These are listed not necessarily in order of priority, but I believe they are the 4 most likely projects to be executed during this calendar year. I have a scope of work that we're finalizing to do a resiliency study, transportation resiliency.
That's countywide, right?
That will be a countywide project undertaken by our office internally, looking at all elements of the transportation system and how resilient it is to repetitive losses and natural hazards. And we have two proposals, one from the town of Ulster for a corridor management plan of 9W. We think that project still has lots of merit, and we will just look to coordinate with the town to see what they would like to accomplish with that project and begin to, and of course, and New York State DOT as a partner, begin to scope out that work to see what we want to accomplish. And the City of Kingston Rail Safety Program is another project that has been indicated as a high priority by the City of Kingston, looking at the West Shore Railroad corridor in the city. And of course, I mentioned the micromobility study. So in closing, this is our draft budget overview table. It's table 1 of the appendix of the UPWP. It really is the best summary of everything that's going on here. We are programming where all of our allocation of this year, the $388,000 of the 2021 allocation, plus I'm proposing to program $435,995 in savings for a total federal budget of $824,100 for our FHWA budget. And that will provide us with just under $300,000 in savings. I should note that our annual budget is typically somewhere in the vicinity of $265,000. We like to save at least 1 year's operating revenue if needed. And the other point that I would like to make is we have received significant feedback and input from our partners at the Federal Highway Administration to show evidence that we are drawing down our savings year to year, and making sure that we are putting forth significant effort to draw down those funds and use them as they should be on transportation planning activities. So this unprogrammed balance does reflect that effort in a continued effort to draw down those savings. Then on the FTA side, and focusing right now just on the federal side of things, we have of course our allocation of $59,000. We would program our savings of just over $84,000, and then the unprogrammed balance would be $45,868. The process for review and approval for your information right now, we will, the UPWP requires 15-day public notice and comment period. We will put out the draft UPWP for comment later this week. We'll do an advertisement and open that up. The comment period I'm estimating right now will be between February 1st and February 15th, although technical committee members can begin to review and provide feedback immediately. Then we would look to have final approval of this UPWP on February 23rd during the policy committee meeting. As usual, any questions regarding the material can be submitted to any one of through our contact information. And if you have comments, you can submit them either directly to me through our email or to the general email, which we all receive, UCTC, shown here. And by mail, they are accepted as well. So that is my presentation. At this point, I'm happy to answer any questions that folks might have regarding our draft 2021 UPWP.
Any questions?
Dennis and Brian, it's Mike Baden. I just had what I unclear if it might be a typo. On page 16, it lists the dates of March, I believe it says April 2020 through March 2021. And I'm just wondering if the year should be 21,
Yeah, it should be.
22.
Thank you.
Yep.
Anything
And then
else?
Dennis, a question, since Rochester is applying for a project on this, should I be recusing myself from any discussion or comments on it, or is,
No,
what is, I don't how to handle that status?
No.
Okay, thank
Anything else, Mike? Any other questions from council members?
I have none.
Okay, hearing none, I'll take a motion for the approval of the draft UPWP.
I'll
And
make a motion.
thank you, Mr. Morrow. Do I have a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you, Mr. Pine. I have a motion and a second. Any additional discussion? Hearing none. Any opposed? Any abstentions? So carried. Thank you.
Thank you.
Item B on your agenda, it's the draft UCTC Resolution 2021-02. It's an amendment to the Ulster County Transportation Council's federal fiscal year 2021-2024 Transportation Improvement Program to add a new NISDOT project PIN number 846064 as shown in attachment 1. I have a motion for discussion purposes.
So moved. Morrow.
Thank you, Mr. Morrow. Do I have a second?
Mike Baden.
Thank you, Mr. Baden. I have a motion and second. I know Sandra Jobson is on the line. Sandra, do you want to explain this?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Basically, this is the engineering scoping study that we started this past summer, and we've been working with the town and the county on looking at kind of the conditions, and then a series of short and longer term recommendations. And what this action is about is that federal earmark funds that were not being used. Basically, we're going to take those federal funds and put them towards this effort so they can be used. So although it's called a new project, it's really a new project to the tip with federal aid, but it is an ongoing engineering scoping study that we've been doing.
Just so everybody knows, it's the Saugerties Thruway intersection with Route 32. My apologies for not indicating that in the introduction. Any questions? Any comments?
And
I
it's
think that's a worthwhile project.
Thank you.
just from an administrative standpoint, any addition or deletion of a project pin to the tip is considered to be a full amendment, therefore requires tech and policy approval, as well as 15-day public comment period.
Okay. Hearing no questions or comments. Any opposed? Any abstentions? So carried. Thank you. Item C on your agenda. This is the draft UCTC resolution number 2021-03. It's a distribution of the federal fiscal year 2021 Federal Transit Administration Section 5307, 5340 urbanized area apportionments attributable to the Kingston urbanized area. I have a motion for discussion purposes.
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Morrow. Do I have a second?
Second, Mike Baden.
Thank you, Mr. Baden. I have a motion and second. Brian?
Yes, we, Ulster County Transportation Council receives allocations from a variety of different sources for FTA funding. And this is for specific to the Kingston urbanized area. This year's allocation is just over $1 million. It's $1,039,578. All public transit operators within the Kingston urbanized area are eligible to receive and split these funds. Of course, there's only one public transit operator, and that is Ulster County through Ulster County Area Transit. Therefore, on table 1 in the attachment to the resolution, you can see actually table 2 shows that 100% of that share will go to Ulster County and Ulster County Area Transit. We are expecting several more resolutions for transit funding in the months ahead for section 5339, which is for bus and bus facilities that is typically distributed directly from NISDOT. So we're waiting for those figures. And also, we will receive more funding through the transportation management area. And those dollars are available. The allocation has been released, but we need to have essentially a caucus with Orange and Dutchess counties to agree on the distribution. So we'll get out that distribution in the
Right.
months ahead.
Any questions?
He's there now. Yep. Okay.
Any comments? Hearing none, any opposed? Any abstentions? So carried. Thank you. So we're on to other old business. Commuter carrier services RFP. If you recall, this is a Ulster County Transportation Council transfers administrative responsibility for commuter carrier services in Ulster County, the private commuter carriers, effectively trailways, to CDTA, which takes the administrative responsibility for those activities. The FTA has determined that the procurement of these services need to be done in a competitive basis. And so the state with CDTA, and we have the opportunity to review, is going to issue an RFP for those services. It's due back, I think, in early March. And with that, we may or may not have a new carrier for transit services in the routes that essentially run, that Trailways runs now, which come out of Oneonta and move down and through the city of Kingston, also go from Kingston to Albany, and finally from Poughkeepsie to Newburgh, and from Kingston to New York City. So we may end up with a new carrier, we may not. It depends on who wins the RFP. We're initiating a conversation with CTA about that RFP, and we'll see what happens. The only thing I would say is, as you recall, with the last transfer of funding with respect to CDTA, we requested some assurances from CDTA that the funds that we're transferring to CDTA for use were actually being used in the corridors within that essentially ran through the city of Kingston and services the areas within the TMA area. We have not been successful in having CTA give us those assurances to date, which is problematic for our transfer of additional funding to CDTA, absent some assurances, either from CDTA or from the state, that effectively the routes that we're paying for, the routes that we're transferring money that we're paying for, are actually the funding actually being used for those routes and not some other routes that may be available elsewhere out of the region. So that's just a point of information. We'll continue to work through that as time goes on. But it's important, I think, to know that the way that transit is procured within the region is about to change. Project updates. Any questions on that? Project updates, Brian? I know you gave a lot of these with respect to the UPWP, but
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. I provided a brief project status report during the UPWP presentation. We plan on rolling out some new documentation for the UND corridor study. We should have an existing conditions report available for public review within the next several weeks. This is looking at the segment of it's presently rail, underutilized rail corridor between essentially the turnoff into the Bel Air ski resort, and then south of that past Big Indian. That's the section of corridor we're looking at, and the consultants for that are Barton and Lejudas, who worked extensively on the Ashoka and Rail Trail design. And we're looking forward to providing an existing condition report for that corridor again in the next several weeks. We have been working over the past several months with Passero Associates on identifying a potential location for an expanded UCAT storage and maintenance facility. The need for additional space was raised by UCAT going back at least 5 years that I can remember. So we're looking to first identify a potential location and also look at the types of programmatic needs the UCAT would require for their additional space. We're looking at doing a public presentation on the findings for this project on February 11th. That's a Thursday, that's 2 weeks from this Thursday. There'll be a 6 p.m. virtual public meeting to present our findings to the public on that project. And that will essentially be the last major step before we can close that project. We're essentially, in summary, we're really looking at the Golden Hill area for potential expansion. The existing site of Golden Hill at Danny Circle of the UCAT facility really is too constricted to expand on the existing site. So we're looking at a location essentially across the street from UCAT if and when we are able to expand that facility. But we do not have dollars identified at this point in time for construction. But the first step, of course, is to answer the question, if we can build, where would we do that? David, do you have any updates on our road safety plan project?
Yeah, so the road safety plan, we've just kind of gone through and we solicited for feedback on the top 50 locations, the top 50 segments and intersections identified throughout the county using a network screening process. We've taken the feedback that we did receive, and we're now drilling those down into local priorities, taking into account local priorities, and we're going to be developing a list of the top 10 locations, which we'll then look at in a greater level of detail to come up with some countermeasure suggestions and preliminary, very, very early planning level designs for some of the options at those intersections. So the project's moving along, and we're looking to complete by the end of April for the project.
Thank you. Finally, I'd just like to mention briefly our long-range transportation plan, of course, was approved by the council in September, and we've been working on reformatting that document. We're just awaiting some final comments from staff in order to finalize that draft. It looks great. It's coming along very nicely. We have had a great consultant team doing the graphic design. Gilday consultants in New Paltz have been doing a wonderful job. And of course, you've already seen we have our new logo that we've been rolling out on some of our materials, and we're able to incorporate that new format into this year's Unified Planning Work Program report design. So we're already using some of the results of that effort. Finally, we did have a question for New York State DOT regarding the status of the Wirt Street Bridge construction contract and the state of repair of that bridge. I was wondering, Sandra, if you had any further updates for council members?
Yeah, hi, Brian. No, I don't have any new information, but as our office is informed, I will definitely pass that along to you guys so that you can share it with the members. And then our engineering department is working very closely with the town and the city and the county as things develop.
Thank you.
Okay?
Yeah,
Yep.
thank you. Just a brief recap. I don't know if everyone was made aware, we may have mentioned it during one of our last meetings. The New York State DOT does have a significant amount of money set aside for the rehabilitation of that bridge. The bids were opened, and the bids received bids received by New York State DOT were all exceeding the dollars amount available. So the process by NISDOT was to reject all bids, rescope the work, and put a new bid out. And so we will wait to receive further updates regarding that process.
Cindy, do we at least have a scheduling update? I mean, do we know when they're gonna rebid it?
No, I don't even have any information on timing.
Could you give
But
us?
as soon as I hear, yep, I can look into that again and see if they have a timetable available, and I'll follow up with you on that.
Thank you.
Okay.
That's
Okay.
all I had. Thank
So
you.
one other thing I just wanted to say is that, we completed the Walkville Valley Rail Trail Opportunity Study in New Paltz, which went from Plains Road up past Bose's and up to Huguenot Street. We've had a reach out from the Greenway folks, which manage the funding available for the Empire State Trail, with a sense that they may be able to find money that's remaining in the Empire State Trail to actually perform some of that work. So we're continuing to be hopeful that that comes to fruition, but it's a good example of essentially a planning process that leads to an implementation. So we really hope that that happens, and we'll keep you informed if it does. Anything else? Any other council members have any updates or old business they want to discuss? Hearing none, do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Morrow. Do I have a second?
Mike Baden.
Thank you, Mr. Baden. Any opposed? I didn't think so. Everybody have a great day. Stay safe and enjoy skiing, hopefully by the end of the day.
Everybody be safe and stay
You
healthy.
too.
Thank you.
Take care.